This is going to be a step-by-step video covering how I installed this car parking sensor system in my Nissan Navara Ute. This is basically just one of the pretty standard systems that you can buy anywhere from about 20 bucks to about 30 bucks. It's got 4 of the ultrasonic sensors that look like that, which you have to drill a hole in the bumper for. Comes with a little hole saw for that. Comes with the main control box, which has inputs for 4 sensors, an input for power and an input for the display unit. Very lightweight, and it's got a little power cable which I'm going to hook up to the reverse lights to power the whole thing. And I've got, this is the little display unit that's got the beeper inside it as well, that sits on your dash, and I've just got the cable for this laid out next to the car. I was just trying to get some idea of whether it's going to be able to reach the tail light there. I did take the tail light off a while ago, and I did see that there's quite a bit of space up high in behind it, and it's relatively clean and dry, so it would probably be a reasonably good place to put the little control box if the display cable is going to reach. I could put the control box behind the passenger seat and then run the ultrasonic sensor cables from the rear bumper into the cab behind the passenger seat, which might be an option as well. I haven't really got that figured out just yet, but I will start from installing the display on the dash where I think it's going to be sitting, and then work my way back and just see how all the wiring lengths work out. So I'll get started on the dash. Okay, so as you can see, here's one I prepared earlier, and I found that the easiest way to get a cable through to the bottom, the idea is going to be to have this little unit maybe sit over here on the dash just behind the steering wheel. Here in the colonies, of course, our steering wheels are on the right hand side. So I found that you just pop out this little speaker cover, and I've got the budget model Navara, so there's no tweeter in here, but I found that with a little bit of effort you could jam a finger or two through the speaker hole here, which you could still do. You just take the speaker out if you have a nicer one that's actually got the little tweeter in there, and stick through the plug, grab it with your finger, and you can actually feed it down from this from where the speaker hole is right down into the footwell, and cable tie it to the rest of the cables that go inside this little plastic cover here. So I'll get started with that, and I'll catch up when I've decided what to do after that. Okay, so I've run the cable for the display unit down, obviously from the top of the dash down, cable tied it to the big loom that's just inside here. It'll be very obvious when you see it. It comes down with all the rest of the wiring there, so it's a bit dark. There's a lot of wiring here. It comes down with all the wiring. It's gone into this through this little cable tray they've got in here, run along, poked it through here just using a bit of stiff wire through to the back side of the car, and then I noticed that this cable tray, if I could get through here, then the holes that this cable tray goes into, which is a nice big square hole, which, as you will see, sorry about the bad videoing here, try and work one-handed, the plug for my little display unit fits absolutely perfectly through the hole for the cable tray. So I'm going to poke it. So what I've actually done is I've got a little bit of white cable, and I pushed it through there, and then we'll jump down underneath the car. But if you look on the sill of the car, it's got a whole bunch of these little rubber grommets, which will come in handy. And what I've done is I managed to run that white cable through one of the holes where that grommet is. Let me just see if we can get up there so you can see over here. There's quite a lot of these white grommets. I just picked one, ran the cable, and I managed to poke it out through that hole. So I'm going to tie up that that plug, pull it through to this hole, and yeah, and then just run it on the outside of the car all the way to the tail light. So I'll do that now. Okay, I've got the driver's side, the driver's door wiring all in. I cable tied the little wire to the loom all the way, just basically trying to avoid any rattles. I hate rattles in the car, so cable tied it all the way, made sure it's not touching any plastic or anything anywhere. There is one potential spot up the top where it passes one of the air vents where I think it might rattle. If that's the case, I'm just going to get some foam and stuff it in there against the cable to hold it still. But we get to this point now where the cable is going through the hole there, and I don't think this white thing really was meant to come out ever. I think they basically go in once and that's it. If you knew what you were doing, you probably could take it out without damaging it, but you'd need some bent tools and things like that. But as it happens, the plastic clip on the far side, as you might be able to see there, is slightly broken, which is now a nice thing because it means I can actually run the cable just in there on the far side down into there, and yeah, that should work fairly well. So I'll do that now, and then we'll do something about the grommet on the other side. Okay, for this grommet where the wire exits, the chassis on the bottom, I used a drill bit to, it's a reasonably hard rubber, so it's a nice little grommet. I used a drill bit to make a 3.5mm hole through the middle, and then I've used a sharp knife, you can see there, to cut right through. Try to put it down on something to cut right through it like that. And so I'm going to put that around the cable with the cable going through the middle, and then I am going to add some neutral cure roof and gutter silicone around where the cable enters and exits, and probably around the cut, and then poke that back into the chassis. You want to use neutral cure. Sorry, it's not the chassis really, it's the sole, but where the cable comes out. You want to use some neutral cure silicone, not acid cure. You don't want to damage the paint or run any risk of getting rust underneath. So yeah, I'll do that now. Okay, quick progress report on the installation of the reversing sensor. So I've got the power cable for the reversing sensor controller cut into the reverse light over here, and I've checked that all works fine. When I put it in the reverse, I get close to 12 volts on the output there with the right polarity. Over here I basically just cut the original wire and then soldered in a heat shrink, which is basically the best you can do there. I used the glue type heat shrink for the outside, so it should be relatively well sealed. Up in here in the back where the light comes out, so I've got the torch going here because it's a bit dark in the workshop. I've just in case it wasn't obvious, to get the tail light out, there is a bolt there and a little bolt down here which come in from the other side and just hold the light in, and it's got a little pin that sits in there, so very obvious. No tricks, no tricks to it at all. And I've got the controller mounted up in here, and I'll just put some light up on there. So it's mounted up right there on the top of the light wheel arch, the light arch. I'm not sure what you call it, the area where the lamp goes in. And yeah, it's nicely out of the way. I've got the connections facing down, so any moisture that might get up there is likely to get out. And I used the double-sided tape that came with the controller to mount it. I wasn't too sure about it in the end, but it feels pretty solid. I don't think it's gonna come off, so I think that's probably gonna do it. What I will do is strain relieve the cables in such a way that if it comes off, it'll all be contained in there anyway, and then at some point I'll probably figure it out. But my gut feel at this stage is that it's going to be just fine, nice up there. So yeah, the other thing, which I was hoping wouldn't be the case, but it ended up being the case, was that the cable that goes to the LED beeper unit on the front was short by about half a meter. And so what I've had to do is, it's only a 4-core cable, so I've got some, I put a meter or so of 4-core cable in, once again solder and heat shrink, so you can see, and once again I use the glue type heat shrink on the outside to keep the moisture out. So there's the other side. And so what I'll do now is I will feed this up into the tail light. So I've got this running all along the chassis underneath the tub. It's quite nice. I've got a cable tied everywhere I can, really, to keep it nice, and I've put a little bit of extra length in here so I can follow the loom to the light rather than cut across open space. And so yeah, that should be nice. So we'll get that done, and then I might tonight get started with the installation of the sensors as well. I might just leave that for tomorrow, see how I feel. Okay, obviously now we've reached the point of no return tonight. I've drilled the 4 holes in the bumper, as you can see, in the chrome. So I've got 4. Might not be able to see, it's probably too dark. I'll do another take in the light. But essentially the thing worth taking away is that this tool that you get with the kit, the hole saw, is a total 100% waste of time. It might not show up very well on the video, but the teeth on that are completely flattened off from about 1 second of trying to drill through the chrome bumper. I think this thing isn't actually hardened at all. It's designed to go through plastic bumpers, obviously not chrome steel bumpers. What I did do is drill my pilot holes just with some standard drill bits, and then I used a sheet metal drill like that to drill it out to, I think this goes 21 millimeters and then it goes 23 millimeters. So I drilled it out to 21, and then I just got the 23 started. What you're looking for is a 22.5 millimeter hole, so I just got the 23 started, and then I used my deburring tool to clean up the back edge, as well as take all the burrs off the back edge, and as well as open it up just slightly to about 22.5 mil. And then I just used one of the sensors for fitting, and yeah, it's worked really well. The next step, the only thing left tonight is I'm actually, instead of just bunging the sensors in and carrying on, I'm going to take some metal paint and paint the inside and the back of all of these holes, and then I'll leave them to cure till late tomorrow afternoon before I'll pop the sensors in. So that's just to prevent any rust from starting around these drilled holes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight. Okay, so the sensors are all installed, the light's back in, it's all wired up. Sounds like it's working. At the moment, the far sensor there on the right hand side is clearly seeing the beam of the workshop there. And so if I go, it might be audible, I'm not sure if you can hear the beeping, but if I come in closer to this one, you can hear it, the beeping changing. And on the dash, it also indicates whereabouts it is actually sensing it. So we can see here it's about 1.5 meters on the right hand side of the vehicle. Now one thing worth noting that might save a little bit of time is if you want the indication on the display to match the side of the vehicle correctly, then you have to wire up the sensors as most on the left is A, then B, then C, then D. If you mix up the sensors, then the side indication on the display won't work correctly. But yeah, it's all installed. It appears to be working great. So yeah, I'll try it for a bit, and if there's any problems, I'll add something to the back of this video. But okay, as a final test, here we are in the car, low range 4-wheel drive, so I can back up to the shed nice and slowly. And I'm going to put it in reverse now, and the display comes on, and I'm quite far away from the shed at this point, so it's obviously indicating that there's nothing in the way. So I'm going to back up slowly. We'll see when it starts detecting. Okay, so we got 1.5 meters there on both sides, which seems reasonable when I look backwards. Let's go a bit more, and 1.2, 1.1, 8. So it's saying about 400 mils there. Let's go and have a look outside, see how accurate that was. Oops. Yeah, I'd say the distance between the door here and the sensor on there would be roughly 400 mils. I guess the only thing worth remembering on this particular one is my tow bar sticks out about 200 millimeters. So that's the only thing to keep in mind, but yep, it definitely does appear to do what it's supposed to do. So now the next thing to check is, I was wondering what would happen if you were to reverse with a trailer on or anything like that, whether it would filter out any non-changing signals. So we'll just go into reverse now, but I suspect that isn't that intelligent. I think it's just going to beep. Yeah, so that's going to drive me nuts when I'm reversing a trailer. So I'll have to get a little bit of tape that I can put over that beeper. But that's the price you pay for. That's the price you pay for having this convenience or this intelligence. Awesome. Yep, seems to be doing what I want. So I hope this video has been some help to anyone looking at installing one of these.